Sir Jim Radcliffe made some very disparaging and unfortunate comments about immigrants in the UK.
Huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised.
Likening them to colonising the country and taking more out than they put in.
People opting to take benefits rather than working for a living.
And in order to support those assertions, he relied on incorrect statistics.
The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, this would not have been a shock to first, second generation British citizens, nor even immigrants in the UK. What seemed to shock some was that it was Sir Jim Radcliffe making these comments, an individual that has partial ownership of an asset in the UK, that being Manchester United Football Club, and whose asset directly benefits from immigrants by way of overseas national footballers, coaching staff, and sometimes managers. But for those more familiar with Sir Jim Radcliffe, they would be aware that relying on incorrect data is something of a pattern. When he sought to buy Chelsea Football Club, he had failed to follow the correct process and even put in a bid 2 weeks after the deadline. For that reason, his bid had failed. But this isn't really about Sir Jim Radcliffe as much as to highlight that the politicians within the United Kingdom have often had that sentiment that immigrants coming to the UK are often the other, who do not bring any benefits to the country or who may be seeking to take over, and for which measures must be put in to curb that. If we go back as far as 1775 to 1784 with the American Revolutionary War, the British had fought in the United States. And in trying to build a force against those fighting them, they had asked enslaved African Americans to side with the British, and in return they would be granted their freedom from enslavement. Well, the British lost, but they honoured their promise to grant freedom to African Americans that fought with them. And so many of them were taken or brought to the United Kingdom, mostly London. But they were given no support, no housing, no job, no financial support. And so many of them became vagrants in London, which caused much hoopla in the British press. And so to address this, rather than try to help them financially, the government at the time decided that they should be relocated to Sierra Leone. And there we have Freetown, a place for freed, formerly enslaved individuals. So again, rather than help those in the country, it was a problem to be moved elsewhere. We move on to Chinese longshoremen who, as part of their work, would stop at ports and had formed family life in the UK, having partners and even children. But this again was seen as a problem for the UK government, and it is believed that many of them were quietly removed without any knowledge from their family members about them not being able to return to the UK. In fact, there were reports that many never heard from those individuals again. We see it again with the children of the Windrush Generation, so that former Health Secretary Enoch Powell would come up with a scheme so that those within the United Kingdom and colonies would be able to come to the UK to help with the infrastructure, to help build the NHS following the problems arising from World War II and the destruction of the societal framework. They come into the UK, all is well, though many of them faced so much discrimination that it was problematic. But it really wasn't until the Windrush generation sought to bring their children into the UK that the same Enoch Powell would talk of rivers of blood, of individuals coming to the UK and trying to take over, and that this was a burden on the United Kingdom. Funnily enough, that same generation, the children of the generation of those that came via Windrush, would suffer again later on when their records proving how they entered the country lawfully were destroyed by the government under Theresa May. Now, Theresa May, who was the Home Secretary at the time, stated that it was not her decision to destroy the records, and that was actually put in place by the previous Labour government, but she had merely acted on it. Nonetheless, many of the children of the Windrush generation did not have passports of their own, because the practice for many at the time was that the children would be added to their parents' passport. So it may be that mum has a passport and child 1 and 2 is listed on there. And that would be reflected in the landing cards proving that mum and child 1 and 2 entered the country. The children of the Windrush generation no longer had those passports showing that they were indeed listed, and they certainly didn't have the landing cards. The government did, but the government destroyed it and didn't inform them. And that is how many came to find that they were not able to prove that they had entered the country lawfully despite living in the country for a long period of time, decades in many cases, never having left the country and visited the former country of their birth. And so the children of the Windrush generation would be harmed twice. But then later on we see those of South Asian heritage who may have come into the country from Bangladesh or Uganda being called out on their loyalty to the United Kingdom by a Conservative Member of Parliament, Norman Tebbit, who talked about them failing the cricket test. Again, questioning their ability to integrate into life in the UK and continually referring to them as the other. We go forward again to New Labour, who, in coming to the UK, recognising on one hand the need for immigrants in the UK, but trying to control where they're coming from, and also introducing for the first time a minimum income requirement so that individuals, British citizens in this country, now needed to meet a certain level of income in order to sponsor their overseas partner and children to join them in the country. So we've seen governments continually understand the need for immigration, but pushing back and using sometimes rhetoric, as recently as Prime Minister Keir Starmer, referring to immigration and talked about the need to avoid a nation of strangers that this country was becoming. And the point is, we cannot be surprised when individuals who have quite a lot of power in this country, such as Sir Jim Radcliffe, use this language when successive governments and politicians up to today hold the sentiment that immigration is a problem, do not highlight the benefits of immigration, particularly with, at the current time, an aging population, smaller tax receipts in a changing world, but talk about lack of integration, lack of contribution, which we're seeing in reforms or proposals for indefinite leave. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that subject. I'm Carla Thomas, an immigration consultant helping individuals with their UK immigration matters. Follow this channel, subscribe, like for news, updates about UK immigration and tips and guidance. Thank you.